Hey, everybody, welcome. I'm Natalie, and this is Scientology Life After a Cult. And today we are going to talk about Leah Remini and her recent statement, reaction, her words about the passing of Mike Rinder. But first, welcome, everybody. Hello to everybody in the live chat. Thank you for being here, and big shout out to the moderators. Thank you so much for being here. The members and everybody in the live chat. Great to see you. Thank you for bringing the aloha and being kind to each other and welcoming. Let's get into this here. Now, many of you already know that Mike Rinder passed away on January 5th. He was a huge critic of Scientology. He's also the former head of Scientology's Office of Special Affairs. He was in the SEAL organization for a long time. He left, escaped, turned whistleblower against Scientology, and then spent the rest of his life working to expose Scientology through the show he did with Leah Remini, Scientology in the Aftermath, and the podcast as well that they did together. And we've seen a lot of news coming out about the death of Mike Rinder. And I got to tell you, I realized, like, I was looking at so much of it and reading a lot of the articles and what people were saying, and the huge number of outlets that are covering not just his passing, but who he was and the impact he had on exposing Scientology. That gets me really excited, because you know who is absolutely hating every article that comes out and says something kind about Mike Rinder, or points out that he exposed Scientology, or mentions again the abuses of Scientology, because you cannot talk about the passing of Mike Rinder without talking about his work in exposing Scientology. And that is Scientology. They cannot stand it. I wish I could be a fly on the wall. The last thing, can you imagine? Okay, this is actually, I'll let my mind, sometimes I like to just fantasize, and I'll let my imagination get carried away, maybe even not that far carried away, you guys tell me. And I was thinking, can you imagine Scientology leader David Miscavige right now, who is the man who physically beat Mike Rinder on multiple occasions? He cannot help but open an internet browser or go to, without, you cannot tell me that stuff. I don't know if he's on social, but this is going to be showing up in his feed. And to have to see over and over again about Mike Rinder and the impact he had and the work that he did. And as part, again, every time a media outlet talks about the passing of Mike Rinder, they talk about the abuses of Scientology. And I'm here for it. I'm absolutely here for it. Linda Lou, you're so right. Little Davy is still laying on the floor. I forgot to pick them up. I've got two of them. I love that you know that too. Hey, Becky, welcome on in. Itchy Thetans, I'm so glad that you're here. Noelle, Natalie, your warmth, kindness, empathy, and sense of humor always brightens my day. Noelle, thank you for that. I really appreciate it. I feel the same way about all of you. We are just processing all kinds of stuff, getting through my cult experience, current things happening in Scientology, so many things. I appreciate y'all so much. Abigail, great point. I bet David Miscavige is terrified that Mike's kids will see social media. Exactly. Not likely, as long as they're still in the Sea Org, but you never know. Death does things to people. It impacts them in ways that can be incredibly life-changing, that are incredibly life-changing. And I have hope, I'm still holding out hope, that Mike Rinder's kids will somehow stumble, will one day see all of the overwhelming outpouring of positive thoughts, appreciation for their dad and the work he did in exposing Scientology. Because it's the world, it's national, it's becoming international news, and that will be there. These things will be on the internet forever. And I'm really holding hope and holding space that one or both of Mike Rinder's grown children who are in the Sea organization do come across these things, do come across these videos, do read their dad's book, which was dedicated to them, and that they see it, and that helps them see the truth about Scientology. One way or another. Itchy Thetans, do you think that with Mike's passing being in the news, there will be an uptick in rewatching the Aftermath docuseries? I hope so. I honestly think there will be, not just with that, but other podcasts and videos, just in all of the interviews and different things that Mike Rinder did. I mean, I know because they're popping up in my feed in social media. Some I haven't seen, some I have seen. So I do think so. I do think so. Let's see. Scientology Green Tapes. That's such a great name. Unfortunately, I somehow suspect that Davey is now celebrating the death of Mike. That's the sort of person he is, mean, close-minded, grudge holder that he is. I agree. I agree. He very well could be. David Miscavige could be celebrating this, but I don't know. The Office of Special Affairs, how you doing? They have to track all of the inches of positive and negative press about Scientology. I don't know how you're going to track all of this, Office of Special Affairs. I don't. It's so much, and it's going to keep going. And now, like I said, we're going to talk about today what Leah Remini had to say and what she shared. Jennifer Arnold, do you think that Mike Rinder's oldest children even know he has passed? Thought about this. I would like to think so. I really would like to think so. I kind of feel it's in Scientology's best interest that the stance they might take is to want to control the narrative and make sure the kids don't find out some other way. They want to be told, make sure they're kept in line, make sure there's no, grief, no upset over it. And you guys tell me, those of you who've ever been estranged from a parent or even a family member who passed away, if any of you had this experience, I'm curious. Did you ever have somebody you cared about passed away that you were on the outs with, right? How did you feel after that? Did it change anything? I'm curious because I wonder that about like with his kids. It's just such a great question. I'm honestly not sure, but I do think that Scientology will do everything in their power to control the narrative, which means they would have to actually tell his adult kids so that they don't find out some other way. Oh, that's interesting, Nancy. There's a channel here in Canada that's playing the aftermath on a nightly basis and has been for some months. Wow. So over and over and over again. Okay. The Welsh Ricken, is that right? I pray that Taryn and Benjamin, and those are Mike Rinder's kids, for those of you who might not know, do leave Scientology, even if they stay under the radar, just so they can meet their little brother, stepbrother, and their amazing stepmom. I agree. They are still young enough that there is so much life ahead of them. There is so much life after a cult. I'm with you. I absolutely hope so. I do. Amy, thank you. Hello, fellow supporters of ending abuse in Scientology. That's right. Thank you guys for being here. Let's see. Scientology Green Tape says that, oh, yeah, Office of Special Affairs for sure, 100% is following all the press about Mike and feeding it to Dave. I talked with OSA people like Pat Hodges or Irina Posner. They told me OSA works like that. Very true. Very true. Somebody has to track it. Somebody has to read it. It just brings a smile to my face, the annoyance and the blow up that David Miscavige is probably having with this outpouring of love and appreciation of what Mike Rinder did to expose Scientology. I love it. I love it that it bothers him. I love it. Yeah, I do. Becky says, I never watched the documentary. I just started watching it. Yeah, that is fantastic. There's so many good ones. Scientology Aftermath, so many. Oh, myself, thank you for bringing this up. His kids should know about his medical history so their doctors can watch out for it as well, but we know that will not happen. We know it won't happen too because they probably don't have doctors. Sea Org members especially, I never knew Sea Org members when I was in the Sea Org to ever get a physical or really even go to the doctor unless it was something major. And then definitely not a lot of follow-up. There's not that is how in the Sea organization and even in Scientology, because though Scientologists can go to doctors, they just can't take mind-altering drugs, psychiatric drugs. They can't see a psychologist or a psychiatrist. But that's just not going to play well for them. I keep thinking that they have to, they're not going to be able to like keep this in a bottle, because think about this too. This news is so big that Scientologists, there's no way they're not seeing it. Think about it. Scientologists all over the world who read many of the publications, it's going to come up in their social feed, right? About Mike Rinder are now being exposed more to the truth about Scientology. And many of these Scientologists don't know that Mike Rinder even left Scientology. So it's kind of a double whammy. One, he left Scientology, triple whammy. Two, they're going to learn about all he did to expose Scientology. And I forgot what three is, but you get the point. You get the point. This is, it is, I am thrilled to see the outpouring of support for Mike's family and the acknowledgement of the work he did, because I know how much this will irritate David Miscavige, people in the Office of Special Affairs, and Scientologists might get the message. That Mike Rinder left Scientology and all the things that he did. Lori Play says, I was estranged from my grandmother when she passed. It gave me the opportunity to mourn the grandmother I'd lost years earlier. That's interesting, but you mourned her. There's still, I guess my point is, or what I'm trying to kind of think for myself is, there's still that loss. Even if you were on the outs with that person, a human life is over. This person had a family and children, and there's so much pain there that, does that change things in some way for maybe, you know what I'm saying, for his kids? Sometimes loss can be so shocking that it can shock you into oblivion, but sometimes it can shock you awake. You know what I'm saying? When you realize, in my own situation, when Tony got diagnosed with cancer and things just got worse over the almost 3 years that he battled, pretty much. And the perspective that we both gained, the way that it put things, it really made our priorities clear. And especially for me after he passed, my desire to simplify my life and focus on the things that bring me joy and that I find truly important. Number one, being here with you guys and doing what I can to expose Scientology and share my story and elevate the voices of other people as well who want to share their stories with Scientology and other cults too. Okay, Nancy's saying that for anyone interested in that channel is Corco, a Christian channel. Interesting. I will have to check that out. The Welsh Rican says, I was estranged from my dad when I found out he had cancer. I got in contact straight away just so I could say goodbye. He wasn't the best man, but he was still my dad. I get that. And that is what I hope is the conclusion that maybe they come to one day. It is a lot to process. It's also a lot to find out. There's so much they don't know. Mike Rinder's children do not know because they are very isolated within the Sea organization. Itchy Thayton says, I hope Mike's older kids get to hear Mike's dedication to them on audiobook so they can hear it in his voice. Yes, that is impactful. I agree. Great question, Marcy. Do Scientologists usually have insurance? Some do, some don't. It really depends on the individual. Scientology does not offer any type of health insurance or benefits for their staff or their Sea Org members. Now, I've known some Scientology staff members, because you don't make money in Scientology, you can qualify for either, free health insurance through the state or a sliding scale. But I knew many Scientologists who did not have health insurance, mainly due to the cost and not prioritizing their health. They tend to, now not all. I also know Scientologists with health insurance, life insurance. They tend to be public Scientologists with kind of a toe out the door. So you can usually tell because they're taking care of what they should be taking care of. But I would say a lot of them don't. And that's how many illnesses really get out of control, because they're not getting proper health care or preventative care. Think about how far we've come when it comes to screening for prostate cancer or screening for breast cancer. There's screenings that you can do, and those aren't being done in the Sea organization. And I rarely ever met a Scientologist that was doing them either, because they just don't think it's going to happen to them, because they're the most ethical group of people on the planet. And they're not going to pull that in. It's not about pulling it in. People get cancer. People get sick. It happens. But because they so much believe in that, right, that they're not a potential trouble source, they're not connected to a suppressive person, that's not gonna happen to them. There's no preventative care. Not all, but a lot, based on what I saw. Jennifer Arnold, I know Mike Rinder was not perfect, but he was genuinely dedicated to ending Scientology, and I think he redeemed himself many times over. Let's see. I'm going to catch up on your comment, but I do want to get into what Leah Remini had to say as well. So keep them coming, and I will get caught up. Okay. I'm going to read this here. Scientology green tapes. I hear what you're saying there. Do you have a link or anything about this? Can you email me, Natalie@lifeafteraccult.com? Because it won't let you put a link in the chat. You're saying that the Hollywood Guarantee building is now under evacuation orders due to fire, where the L1 Hubbard Life exhibition is, Church of Scientology International, RTC office, etc. Can you send me any information you have on that? I will watch for my email, and we can get to talking about that as well. All right, you guys, let's see here. Oh, and reminder, please hit that like button, hit that subscribe, set your notification bell to all. I'm told that's the secret to getting notifications. All right, let's see. I'm going to jump over and read this now with you guys. This is from Leah Remini. This is from her Substack, Mike Rinder. On Sunday, let me make sure I got this up here right. Okay. On Sunday, we lost a giant, and I lost a man who was more than a friend. He was my family. It's impossible to imagine the last 13 years of my life without Mike Rinder. He was my anchor, my trusted partner, and my closest confidant. The thought of moving forward without him feels unbearable. When I left Scientology, oh, I can just feel that pain. When I left Scientology, Mike was one of the first people I turned to. From that moment, he became my lifeline. Together, we embarked on an incredible journey that included the aftermath and our podcast, Fair Game. But Mike was so much more than my partner in this fight. He was my brother, my father, my best friend in every way that mattered. Mike saved my life and the life of my daughter. He stood by me through battles that felt insurmountable, giving me strength when I had none left. I owed him a debt I could never repay. I haven't yet come to terms with the reality that I can't call him, text him, or hear his voice anymore. I'm shattered in ways I never thought possible. Overwhelmed by the weight of this loss, I have cried endlessly and can't seem to move from my bed since coming home from being with him and his grieving family. I'll have so much more to say about Mike and the legacy he leaves behind. Words that will attempt to honor his immeasurable contribution to this world, to my life, and to the lives of countless others. But for now, I want to honor his memory by fulfilling one of his last wishes, encouraging support for his son Jack's college fund. In his post Scientology life, Mike was a man transformed. He worked tirelessly to right the wrongs of his past and beyond. He owed no one anything. Mike was offered a lot of money to stay silent about Scientology's criminal activities, and he refused and did the work. There was not one call that Mike didn't take, not one person Mike didn't try to help, despite the many heartbreaks he endured from those who needed him. Mike also became an incredible husband and an attentive, loving father to Jack and his stepson, Shane. One of the many heartbreaks Mike suffered was the absence of his older children, Taryn and Benjamin, who disconnected from him due to Scientology's cruel policies after he courageously escaped its abuse. Mike adored Jack, who is just 12 years old. Somebody asked me that the other day, and I did not know. I didn't I thought he was a little older. I thought he was a little older. But gosh, that's so young. He was consumed with knowing he wouldn't be there to see Jack grow into adulthood. If you're able, if you're able, I hope you'll join me in contributing to Jack's college fund, ensuring that Mike's dreams for his son can still come true. Click here to make a contribution to Jack's college fund. Please keep Mike's brave and devoted wife, Christy, and their son, Jack, and Mike's stepson, Shane, in your thoughts and prayers. They've lost a husband and father whose love knew no bounds, and I've lost someone whose presence in my life was irreplaceable. My Mikey, I will miss you every day, and I just don't know how to do it without you. And that, again, that's from Leah's Substack. I will link that in the description of this video. I don't think I already did that, but I will do that. And I'm sure that Leah Remini is going to come out with more. It's a lot to process. I mean, they really, when you think about it, when you're doing something like leaving Scientology and that lifeline, that person who's there for you, when you're taking all this heat, all this hate, which happens when you leave Scientology, especially if you do it publicly. You got people that you thought were once your friends turning on you, disconnecting, attacking you, making hate videos about you, especially for people who publicly speak about Scientology. And I get what she's saying. Mike Rinder was there for her, was a lifeline, there for her in that way. And one of the things that in Mike's own words that he asked was anybody who is still willing to contribute to exposing Scientology and this fight to end their abuses, please continue to do so. There's so many different ways to do that. Even by being here, you guys are doing that. There are just so many different ways. There's so many things that so many people are doing to contribute to that. And I know I appreciate absolutely all of it. And I hope too that Leah Remini herself continues when she's ready to pick up that fight and continue to expose Scientology and Scientology abuses. Let's see. Abigail says that would make sense. Natalie, I thought he was older too. I got to give Mike credit for that. He's already planning for Jack's college. Yeah, again, something unusual. I knew a couple Scientologists whose kids went to college, but the majority not. And some of them, even after college, still even ended up joining staff for Scientology and having their lives ruined. It's just this never-ending cycle. Scientology green tapes, I'm going back and seeing here. Okay, so you're saying evacuation area, Laurel Canyon Boulevard on the west to Mulholland Drive on the north to 101 Freeway on the east, down to Hollywood Boulevard on the south. But where is this? Can you send me or just tell me where you found it? Because just a little while ago, I saw in the news that was lifted, but maybe again with the winds and things changing that this is happening now. I know this was the case last night, but are you saying this is information that came out right now? I'll go take a look too after that. But that's crazy. Okay, so I also had people make phone calls to confirm it. I will definitely be checking that out. But definitely anything you hear, information you want to share, that you want me to share, go ahead and email it to Natalie@lifeafteraccult.com. Let's see. They said it was sent by an insider. Mama Opal, what was sent by an insider? I might have missed something earlier here in the chat. When I was reading that whole thing, I could not see the chat at all. I need to get 2 screens. I think I'm the only one doing YouTube here that does what I do with commentary with 1 screen. I need a bigger desk. I'm definitely going to need a bigger desk if I'm going to do that. Yep, you're so right, Scientology green tapes. It's a tragedy that they managed to separate Mike's children from him in that way. Think about that, right? You think like it's easier for them to do when they're in the Sea Org, but they did the same thing to Nicole Kidman when she and Tom Cruise got divorced. Marty Rathbun got involved, turned the kids against Nicole Kidman, got them to think their mother was a suppressive person. And they've been estranged. I mean, it's the breaking up of families and turning family members and friends against each other. Why can't you just move on? You know what I'm saying? Why can't you just leave Scientology, get on with your life? You know what I'm saying? And you could still have your friends in Scientology if you wanted to. Why is there this enforced disconnection? Because it's contagious. Truth is contagious. You start finding out the truth about Scientology and realizing what's going on and actually seeing the abusive practices for what they are. They're abusive practices. You're destroying families, disconnection, things that in Scientology on the everyday, you're just kind of like, well, that's, of course I would disconnect from somebody who was being antagonistic about Scientology. No, too much throwing away of people. I had a lot of people throw me away when I left Scientology or just disconnect. Same thing. People who were supposed to be really good friends of mine. That's how strong the mind control is. That's how strong the brainwashing is. Hey, Natalie Strasser, thank you so much for being here. I'm glad you're catching up on the replay. Let's see. Scientology Green Tape says maybe they rescinded the order just now, but a few hours ago I had an insider call me and tell me they got the order. That's interesting. That's true. Maybe the insider wasn't reliable. Could be. Let's see. Abigail, the link you sent me has a redirect link to a site that's doing continuous updates on the LA fire. Okay, I'm never going to find that right now. Is Mama Opal here? Can somebody look it up? And let's see. I'll look it up too. But I got to go back and find the email. It's going to take me forever. I'll Google it. I will Google it and look that up. But kind of to kind of just like wrap it up here in this particular topic, I think, and I hope that we're going to hear more from Leah Remini. She doesn't seem to me to be somebody who's, she needs to process, and grief will be something that she's always going to carry. But in getting back in that fight, especially to honor Mike Rinder and the work that they did together, I definitely hope to see more of that. I'm hoping that the passing of Mike Rinder wakes up even more people in Scientology, that they get exposed to the countless number of articles and news covering the passing of Mike Rinder and the work he did to expose Scientology. I'm hoping they get exposed to that and see that, and that information becomes more and more and more available to people who Scientology is trying to keep behind this wall, this firewall of Scientology, where you're not able to look at anything that questions, but where the stories about Mike Rinder are popping up are in places that where they're not always going to expect it. And for people who've been in Scientology for a long time, Scientology public, they will remember Mike Rinder from back in the day. They would see him on stage with David Miscavige. And I don't think they're going to not read it. Because if they don't know he left Scientology, they're just going to be like, oh my gosh, look at him being honored. And he was this Scientologist. And then they read it and are like, what? This is how I imagine it happening. I do. It's how I imagine it happening. Gaslit. Love you, Natalie. Oh man, every Thursday. And then I realized that it was a every Thursday threat. LOL, like, oh man, one day it was just a Thursday. Yeah, every week, Thursday to Thursday. So right now it's Scientology's week ending. They go Thursday to 2 to Thursday at 2. So they're everywhere trying to get their stats up. Okay, thank you, Mama Opal. So let's see. You know what's so weird though? When I'm in StreamYard, I can't click on the links, but I'll go look into that. Let's see. No doubt Scientologists are getting late info from their higher ups. Yeah, could be. This is the thing I'm worried about with Sea Organization members specifically. They don't have access. They don't have smartphones unless it relates to their job, but they're not allowed to go on the internet and just be reading news and stuff, that they're not going to know what's happening and they're not going to be ready. Thank you, Scientology Green Tapes. You just found this update. The majority of the evacuation zone for the Sunset Fire is lifted, with the exception of the area north of Franklin from Camino Palmero Street, east border, to North Sierra Bonita Avenue, west border. So I think that's north then, right, of where Celebrity Center or the Scientology Blue buildings are. But wouldn't it be like just? I mean, if they're not in that area, they're barely out of it. Thank you for that. Thank you so much for grabbing that and letting us know. I appreciate it. Gaslit. Yes. Oh, thank you, Abigail. Thank you so much for resending the email. It'll be on top. Yep, you're right. So just a few hours ago, they were under the evacuation order. Now it's lifted. But gosh, that can turn at any time. Any time. NYC girl, his cancer is daunting. I wish he'd come to Sloan Kettering. I found a study for him. They said, no thanks. I'm a nurse practitioner in New York City, 40 years. I told them, don't go to Florida for treatment. Come to Mecca SK. Oh, Sloan Catering. Sloan Kettering. Jennifer Arnold, do you think cult of Scientology would actually comply with evacuation orders? Oh gosh, we talked about this on the recap. And I talked about it with Gary Jackson Moorhead, who was a security chief for Scientology at one point, and also a 20 plus year veteran of the Riverside Fire Department. So he actually fought fires. And I asked him, what do you think? You put the protocols in place for this type of thing. And he said, no, he does not think they will fully evacuate. If they were ordered to evacuate, some people will be evacuated, but a bunch will remain behind, in his opinion, to protect the buildings and the confidential materials. Which, I think that's probably right. I think that's probably right. So I don't think they will fully comply with it. I hope that they do. Scientology right now are opening the doors to their orgs for people who've been displaced, which is a whole nother thing of like, great, first I'm stressing about the Sea Org members being locked in and not being told what's going on. Some of them have family who probably got evacuated, who can't get a hold of their family members in the Sea Org. And now we got to add to it. It's such a mess, especially for people in the Sea organization, because I question how much they know and how much their family members are reaching them, or can they reach their family members? Ah, it's such a mess, you guys, such a mess. Let's see. I read that. I'm going to keep an eye out too and see if you guys see something, say something, anything Scientology culty related in regard to the fires. There's so much information floating around. Natalie at lifeafteroccult.com, and we'll continue the conversation. As far Ren, yes, Tori is safe. She has supplies. We heard from her last night. I've not talked to her today, but it's right now. It's about only 10:30 there. And Tori's a night owl, so she's usually up a little later, but I do plan on reaching out and connecting with her a little later. Let's see. Christy, exactly. Can you imagine not having free access to information because your so-called church is controlling even that part of your life? Yes. And I know they do. That's why I'm genuinely freaked out about this. I remember what it was like in there. I was there during 9/11. They keep you in the dark. They treat their people like mushrooms. You know what I'm saying? Keep them in the dark and feed them crap. It's just the Scientology narrative. They tell them that what you need to do is focus on what you're doing here and now in Scientology. Even now, more than ever, we need you to get on course. We need you to do your auditing. We need you to bring people in with everything that's happening right now as Los Angeles burns. That still will be their focus. They want their members to keep going on the mission for Scientology and not use these fires and this disaster, true emergency, as an excuse. There is no excuse in Scientology for not producing and not meeting your targets, especially on a Thursday. So trust me when I tell you there's people, staff members, Sea Org members, and Scientology orgs right now just getting on like nothing's happening. And some of them, a lot of them, I bet they don't even know. I mean, you look outside, there's got to be smoke, but we don't know what they're telling them. We don't. Cajun Mama, if people want to stay, we police would ask for their next of kin. I hope they do that. I hope they're honest about who's staying. I don't see them sharing that information either for the Sea organization to share next of kin information with law enforcement. I would be really surprised. They would probably say there was none. I mean, they just try to, cut those ties and cut those ties. They do. It's I'm genuinely concerned about them. I know I keep saying that because there's nothing I can do about it except continue to try and get the word out and hope that even people who might have family members who are in the Sea Org, like, do not give up on trying to reach them. If they're in Los Angeles, especially right now, do not give up on trying to reach them. Don't let up. Do whatever you have to do. Keep calling. Put pressure on them because they need that. I mean, I think Scientology needs that. They need to know that people who have family members who are still in the Sea Org aren't just going to stand by outside and wait to see what Scientology does. Jane, I do not believe the blue building is under any type of evacuation, but they are still at risk. It's still a really volatile situation, not to mention, the smoke and the air quality. Marcy, I don't blame you, Natalie. It's very concerning. It is. I'm just sick about it. Sick about it. I got up at 4:30 this morning. I was supposed to be able to sleep till 5:30. Could not get back to sleep. I just had to get up and just start working. Well, I also had a meeting at 7:30. So I had to do all my prep for my show by 7:30 in the morning, go to my meeting, and then go do the daily recap there at 9. It all worked out. No problem, Jane. No problem. Yeah, they would see, Marcy, you'd think they would see the glow, but Marcy, Sea Org members, they aren't like out walking around and looking around. They tend to be very focused on what they're doing. They're not just going for walks just to go for a walk unless it's a Scientology thing where they actually have to go take a walk. And then maybe they would see, and I wouldn't put it past Scientology to keep their people in the building and to tell them it's because of the poor air quality, just so they don't see what's going on because they have no access to media. In my day, we weren't even allowed to listen to regular radio, because they don't want things coming out. Sai, thank you so much for that super sticker. You're doing a great job getting the message out. I appreciate that. I absolutely appreciate that. Becky says ashes are falling like snow. The air is thick with smoke. Big Blue would definitely see the glow of the fire. So will they let people outside? I wish if it were safe, somebody would be out there. We could actually see what's happening. Are they letting anybody outside the blue buildings? We just don't know. We don't know. Are they just going on like life is normal Thursday before 2? I'm not sure. My guess is that they are, because it's what they've always done before. All right, you guys, that's what I have for you with this. Let me know your thoughts if you're on the replay. Jump in the comments, whether it's related to the fire, or tell me what you think about what Leah Remini said. It's a lot to process. It's a lot to go through. Yes. And wouldn't they realize OTH were not successful at putting out the fire with their minds? Exactly. Scientology has multiple reasons to keep this from their people, specifically Sea Org members. And I say that because regular staff members go home. They have televisions. They have cell phones. Sea Org members don't. They're the ones who are in the dark about it. And more so the ones who are not going to have a choice or believe that they don't have a choice. And then they have blind trust in what the Sea Org tells them. Oh, it's going to get me all worked up. I'm going to have to go for a walk. I need to get some herbal tea. It's just, if I'm getting worked up, you guys, because if you've been with me for a while, like, I am fairly chill, but I just have such a horrible feeling about this, truly, based on what Scientology has done before. All right, I keep saying I'm leaving, but I'm now leaving. Hey, Itchy Thetans, I appreciate you being here. Thank you, guys. I will talk to you later on. My sister's coming out this afternoon to do some sister time. We'll see how it goes. If I can do a video with Lana today or tomorrow, I will. But honestly, I just need some sister time. I need some sister time. So I might just check out and you don't see me till tomorrow. We shall see. But I am going to be keeping an eye on my email. We're going to be watching the news, following these stories. So Yeah, definitely. If you see something, say something. Becky, you stay safe, everybody out there. And thank you guys for being here and being there for each other. Hope y'all get out. The rest of your day is cult free.